When you're strong, your power isn't in how loud you get or how quickly you fire back. It's in the pause. The moment you give yourself before you react tells the world you're not controlled by impulse, pressure, or someone else's behavior. This idea alone can change how you navigate arguments, stress, and uncomfortable conversations. Today, we're breaking down why strong people never react first and how you can master the same skill. Strong people understand that reacting first means giving away control because the moment you react impulsively, you hand your emotions over to the situation instead of keeping them in your own hands. When you react instantly, you're no longer choosing your response. The moment is choosing it for you. Strong people don't like that exchange. They want to stay grounded enough to decide what deserves their energy and what doesn't. That pause gives them the space to breathe, to observe, to let the emotional spark settle just enough so they can see things as they are, not as they feel in the heat of the moment. That ability to pause is what keeps them steady when everyone else is spinning. When someone tries to provoke you, pressure you, or pull you into their emotional storm, the first reaction is almost always raw emotion. It's survival mode, not clarity. Strong people know this, so they don't let the first wave of frustration, irritation, or defensiveness drive the conversation. They've learned that the loudest reaction is often the weakest position because it shows the other person exactly where your buttons are and how easily they can push them. That's why they hold back, not out of fear, but out of confidence. They refuse to give anyone the satisfaction of seeing them lose control or act in a way they'll regret later. There's a quiet power in being able to sit with your emotions instead of throwing them at someone. Strong people master that silence, that moment where they feel everything but say nothing. They let the emotion wash through them without letting it spill out. They don't need to prove themselves in the moment because they already know who they are. And this lack of urgency to react tells the world something important. They can feel deeply without being controlled by what they feel. That balance makes them intimidating in the best way, calm, steady, unshakable. Strong people also understand that reacting first often escalates things that don't need escalation. Most arguments get worse because two emotional reactions collide at full speed. But when one person stays calm, grounded, and deliberate, the intensity drops. The situation stops being a battle and becomes a conversation. Strong people choose to react last because it allows the other person to let out whatever they need to say. And once that energy is released, the strong person can address the real issue without the emotional fog. They create space where solutions can exist instead of fueling the conflict. Another reason they don't react first is because they know the difference between responding and reacting, and the gap between the two is power. Reacting is instant. It's emotional. Responding is intentional. It's thoughtful. Strong people choose intention every time because intention keeps them in control of their words, tone, and direction. They understand that every word spoken in anger becomes something you might have to apologize for later. So they pause, they think, they choose the version of themselves they want to show up as, not the version the situation tries to force out of them. And ultimately, strong people don't react first because they value their peace above temporary emotional release. They know that giving in to impulse feels good for a moment, but costs you long-term control, confidence, and clarity. They'd rather stay steady than be right. They'd rather stay composed than be reactive. They'd rather walk away with their self-respect intact than win an argument that never mattered. Their strength isn't loud, it's quiet, intentional, and rooted in self-control. And that's why they never react first, because the person who reacts first loses control, but the person who waits gains it. Strong people practice emotional discipline by creating space between stimulus and response because they understand that the first emotion is not the final truth. When something triggers them, they don't immediately trust the surge of irritation, fear, or defensiveness that rises up. Instead, they allow that emotion to pass through before deciding what to do with it. This space they create isn't about avoiding conflict, it's about approaching it with clarity instead of chaos. They know that nothing good comes from decisions made in the middle of an emotional spike. so they give themselves permission to slow down. That slowing down becomes their strength. That pause is powerful because it gives them time to question what they're feeling instead of acting on autopilot. Strong people don't let their emotions run the show. They observe them, almost like stepping outside themselves for a moment and watching what's happening internally. They ask quietly, is this about the situation or is this about me? That question alone creates a massive shift. Instead of reacting based on old habits, insecurities, or emotional baggage, they respond based on the truth of the moment. This ability to separate emotion from action is what keeps them steady when others lose themselves in the heat of the situation. Emotional discipline doesn't come from being cold or detached. It comes from understanding your own emotional patterns well enough to not drown in them. Strong people have done the work of noticing what triggers them and why. They've seen the consequences of reacting too fast, the arguments, the misunderstandings, the moments they wish they could take back. Over time, they learn that discipline is freedom, the freedom to respond in a way that reflects who they want to be, not who they are in a moment of frustration. And once they experience that freedom, they refuse to go back to letting impulse run their life. The space between stimulus and response also protects their clarity in ways most people underestimate. When you react instantly, you're operating through a haze, a clouded mind that's fueled by emotion instead of reason. But strong people use that pause to gather information, read the room, analyze intentions, and understand the deeper layer beneath what's happening. Maybe the other person is stressed. Maybe the conversation isn't about you. Maybe you misinterpreted their tone. That clarity can completely change the direction of the moment. A situation that could have turned explosive transforms into something manageable simply because one person chose patience over impulse. Strong people also know that emotional discipline builds trust, not just with others, but with themselves. When you can rely on your ability to stay calm, you stop fearing difficult conversations. You stop avoiding conflict. You stop feeling overwhelmed by strong feelings because you know you can handle them without losing control. This kind of self-trust is rare, but it makes you stronger in every area of your life. It shows up in relationships, at work, in arguments, and in the way you talk to yourself. People begin to feel safer around you because they know you won't explode, shut down, or react unpredictably. At the core of emotional discipline is the choice to be intentional rather than reactive. Strong people choose intention every single time because they know that knee-jerk reactions usually create more damage than the situation itself. They've learned that their strength doesn't come from overpowering others, it comes from mastering themselves. So they take the pause, they breathe, they wait for the emotion to settle before giving their response. And in doing so, they communicate something powerful without ever saying it out loud. I control my emotions. My emotions don't control me. That's the mindset that protects their peace, their clarity, and their strength. And it's why they never react first. Strong people know that silence is not weakness, it is strategy, and they use it deliberately in every interaction because it has power that words can never match. When someone tries to provoke, pressure, or manipulate, the first impulse is often to speak, to defend, or to fight back. But strong people understand that responding immediately usually feeds the energy of the situation rather than controlling it. By choosing silence, they create a space where tension can settle and clarity can emerge. In that quiet, the truth often comes out on its own, and people reveal their intentions, insecurities, and real feelings without even realizing it. The strong person doesn't need to push or prod, they simply observe, and the situation unfolds naturally. Silence gives them an advantage because it allows observation over reaction. In that moment, strong people can watch body language, hear tone shifts, and notice patterns in behavior that would be missed if they were focused on reacting. While others are caught up in the noise of emotion, the strong person is gathering information, decoding motives, and anticipating outcomes. This is not passive waiting, it's active awareness. The pause allows them to respond later with insight instead of impulse. And when they finally speak, their words carry weight, not because